My name's Emma. I grew up in a house where money was never tight, but that didn't mean everything was easy. See, in my family, there was my dad, Robert, a big shot who owned one of the fanciest restaurants in town. My mom, Laura, who could have won an award for the world's best social butterfly. And then there was my sister Lily, the golden child in my mother's eyes. From the get-go, it was as clear as day that my mom had a favorite, and it wasn't me. I mean, sure, Lily was the cute little one with curls and giggles that could light up a room, but I wasn't exactly the family goblin. Emma, can you clean up your room and then help set the table? We've got guests tonight, Mom would start in, the moment I walked through the door from school. Sure, Mom. Is Lily helping out too? I'd ask, dumping my bag and hoping for some fairness. Mom would shoot me a look, the kind that meant don't push your luck. Lily's got her dance class. You know how important that is for her. And just like that, I'd be stuck doing chores while Lily got to prance around in some dance studio. It wasn't just the chores, it was everything. If Lily so much as sneezed, Mom was there with a box of tissues and 1,000 kisses. If I sneezed, it was more like, Emma, could you keep it down? One time, I brought home a trophy from a science fair. I was buzzing, you know? I set it down with a thud on the kitchen counter right as Dad walked in. Hey, pumpkin, what's this? Dad asked, his eyes lighting up as he lifted the trophy. I won it. First place in the science fair, I said, trying to keep the excitement from making me bounce off the walls. That's my girl, Dad cheered, pulling me into a bear hug. We were still laughing when Mom walked in, Lily in tow. Oh, what's all the noise? Mom asked, barely glancing at the trophy. Lily, show your dad the painting you did today. Dad looked from the painting to my trophy, his face all kinds of twisted in discomfort. That's a great painting, Lily. And Emma, we'll celebrate your trophy tonight. How about your favorite pizza? You're always making a fuss over Emma's school stuff, Mom snapped once Lily had left the room. She gets enough attention as it is. Dad's face went serious real quick. Laura, both girls deserve our praise. Emma's achievement is a big deal. Mom just huffed. Well, I think we focus too much on academics. Lily's creativity is just as important. The thing was, Lily knew she was the favorite, and she played it up every chance she got. Mom said I could have your old iPod since you got a new one for your birthday, she'd say, all casual like it was nothing. Did she now? I'd snap back, tired of the hand-me-down life my belongings seemed to lead once Lily took an interest. If you're gonna be mean, I'll just tell Mom, Lily would threaten, her voice all whiny. Dad tried to make things right when he could. He'd sneak me extra allowance money or bring home a book he knew I'd like. Don't let it get to you, pumpkin, he'd say. You're worth 1,000,000 of those iPods or whatever it is this week. But no matter what Dad did, it couldn't quite balance the scales at home. Mom's favoritism was like a constant gray cloud over the house, and no matter how much Dad tried to shine a light through, that cloud wouldn't lift. The day I got my college acceptance letter felt like the first real win in a long time. I was going to college a good 3 states away. It was far enough to carve out my own space, away from the constant shadow of being the less favored daughter. I remember waving that letter in the air when I burst into the kitchen, where Dad was fixing himself a coffee. His face lit up like a Christmas tree when he read the headline. Look, Dad. I got in. I couldn't keep the quiver out of my voice, a mix of nerves and excitement bubbling up. That's fantastic, Emma. I knew you could do it. Dad pulled me into a tight hug, his pride evident. But the moment was cut short when Mom walked in, her eyes narrowing slightly as she took in the scene. What's all this then? She asked, her voice cool. I handed her the letter with hands that trembled, not from excitement but from the impending backlash. I got accepted into college, I managed to say, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Mom read the letter, her lips tightening with every word. This college, it's states away. I was thinking you could just stay here, help out at the restaurant. We could use that college fund for Lily's education instead. She wants to go to that private art school. I felt like I was being sucker punched. But that money was set aside for me, for my college, I said, my voice rising despite my attempts to keep calm. Dad stepped in then, his usual calm demeanor gone. Laura, we agreed that money was for both our children's education. Emma has earned her chance to go to college. She's going, that's final. Mom's face flushed a deep red. You always spoil her. What about what Lily needs? Lily will have what she needs, but right now, it's Emma's turn. I won't have you sabotage her future for favoritism, Dad shot back, his tone brooking no argument. The day I left for college couldn't come soon enough. Packing up my things, I felt the weight of the years of being the second choice lifting slightly. Dad drove me to the railway station, the car ride filled with his advice and reassurances. You're going to do great, Emma. I'm just a call away, remember that, Dad said as he pulled up to the curb. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Thanks, Dad, for everything. As I hugged him goodbye, I caught a glimpse of Mom and Lily in the car. Mom's look was unreadable, cold even. Lily just stared out the window, her expression sour. Living on my own was like taking a deep breath after years of short, stifled gasps. The rented apartment was small, but it was all mine, or at least, felt like it. Dad sent me $2,500 every month for my expenses, promising to also pay for my tuition twice a year. It was more than generous, and I made it a point to manage that money like a pro, careful not to splurge, cautious about every dime, even though no one was looking over my shoulder anymore. My days settled into a comfortable rhythm. College was a buffet of knowledge, and I was there with an empty plate ready to fill it up. I steered clear of the frequent campus parties. They were tempting, sure, but I didn't want anything throwing me off track. I was here to make something of myself, not just to party. Despite the freedom, I found myself missing Dad. We didn't talk much. I didn't want to bother him too much, knowing he had his hands full with the restaurant and everything. Plus, I wanted to show him, and maybe a bit to myself, that I could stand on my own 2 feet. But, I did end up getting a job at a local cafe. It wasn't much, but it helped me feel even more independent, padding out my carefully managed budget with a bit of extra cash. One day, nearly a year into my new life, I was wiping down tables when my phone buzzed. It was Mom. My stomach knotted up a bit as I picked up. We hadn't exactly kept in touch. Emma, we need to talk, Mom's voice was stern, cutting through the noise of the cafe. It's about your father. He's hit a rough patch financially. We can't send you money for your apartment anymore. You'll need to figure something out. Okay, thanks for letting me know, I managed to say, keeping the tremble out of my voice. After hanging up, the reality set in. No more money for rent. I needed a plan. Fast. The next day at college, I talked to my friend, Jamie, who I knew was also struggling a bit with finances. Hey, Jamie, you got a minute? Sure, what's up? Jamie looked up from her books, pushing her glasses up her nose. I need a new place to stay. Budget cuts. Any chance you're looking for a roommate, or know someone who is? I tried to keep it light, but Jamie caught the strain in my voice. Actually, I'm in the same boat. My roommate just bailed. Want to team up? We could find a cheaper place together, she suggested, a hopeful note in her voice. That sounds like a plan. Let's do it, I said, relieved. Moving in with Jamie meant not only saving on rent but also having someone around who understood the college grind. We found a small apartment closer to campus. It wasn't much, but it was affordable. With our combined furniture and some thrift store finds, it slowly started to feel like home. Between my job at the cafe and a new gig at the college library, I managed to scrape together enough to keep myself afloat. I was halfway through my semester, buried in books at my desk, when my phone rang. It was Mom again. Emma, there's something you need to understand, she began without preamble. Her tone was serious, more detached than usual. Lily has decided to go to college. It's a costly affair, and we've decided that your father's funds will now solely support her education. I paused, my heart sinking. What do you mean? What about my fees and living expenses? It means you need to figure something out. Maybe stop school and work for a while, she said briskly. Mom, that's not fair. I'm halfway through my program. How can you just pull the plug? I felt my voice rise, the frustration building. I need to talk to Dad. I'll call him myself. Your father isn't doing well, Emma. He's very sick. Pressuring him about money could make things worse. You wouldn't want to be responsible for that, would you? Her tone was accusatory, manipulative. No, of course not, I stammered, a mix of anger and concern washing over me. She didn't wait for my response, just hung up, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling like the floor had dropped from under me. This couldn't be happening. I needed to find a way to keep going, to not let all I'd worked for slip through my fingers because of family politics. Determined not to give up, I tightened my belt in every way possible. My meals became smaller and less frequent, often skipping breakfast to save a few dollars. My focus was on my studies. Keeping my grades up was my one ticket to a potential scholarship. Hey, Emma, we're all heading out tonight to celebrate midterms being over. You should come. Jamie said one evening, her face alight with the anticipation of letting loose. I can't. Need to save every penny I can, I replied, feeling the weight of isolation that my financial situation brought. As I continued working 2 jobs, the fatigue began to catch up with me. The cafe shifts that ended past midnight were the hardest. I'd trudge home, feeling the exhaustion bone deep, only to be up a few hours later for class. One evening, after a particularly grueling shift, I staggered home, ready to grab maybe an hour of sleep before my morning class. As I reached for my textbooks, a wave of dizziness washed over me. The room spun wildly, and I felt myself losing balance. The last thing I remembered was a darkening edge creeping into my vision before everything went black. When I came to, the harsh glare of hospital lights blurred into the sterile white ceiling above me. I was disoriented, my mind foggy, until a gentle hand on my arm and the beep of machines brought me back to reality. I turned to see a nurse adjusting the drip by my bed. You fainted from severe malnutrition and exhaustion. Your roommate found you and called 911, the nurse explained, checking my vitals. Jamie. Of course, she had. I remembered now, the overwhelming fatigue and then nothing. I need to get out of here, I said, panic rising. I can't afford this. The doctor will talk to you about that. Right now, you need to rest. She cut me off gently but firmly. Rest. A luxury I felt I couldn't afford. But my body had other ideas, forcing me into a shutdown I couldn't fight. It was a day later when I managed to get hold of my phone. The first call I made was to my mom, desperation edging out pride. Mom, I fainted. Ended up in the hospital. I need help, I stammered, the words tasting bitter. There was a pause, then, Emma, these are your problems. You chose to go away to college. Mom, I'm your daughter, I pleaded, a lump forming in my throat. Yes, and Lily is my daughter too. And right now, she needs me more, she replied coldly, and the line went dead. Tears of frustration and hurt welled up, but I had no energy to let them fall. I lay back, hollowed out by more than just hunger. It was clear I was on my own. The next few days were a blur of white walls and medical advice, all iterating the same point. I needed to slow down, eat more, rest. When I was discharged, Jamie was there, her face etched with worry. You're not going back to work yet. Not on my watch, she declared as she practically frog-marched me back to our apartment. And that's final. I'm not watching you end up back in that hospital bed. Back home, Jamie took charge. She stocked our tiny fridge with basics, much of which she paid for herself. When I tried to protest, she shut me down with a glare that brooked no argument. Listen, Emma, you're going to eat, sleep, and study. That's it. I'm not letting you do any more until you're better, she insisted. I'll pay you back. Every penny, I said, my voice thick. We'll sort that later. For now, focus on getting through your exams. Her uncompromising care was a balm to the chaotic stress I'd been living in. I found myself being steered to meals, accompanied to the library, and monitored like a hawk. The day I found out I'd passed, and not just passed, but excelled, securing an academic award, it felt surreal. I was exhausted but elated. Jamie was thrilled, her whoops echoing in our small space. "We did it," she cheered, throwing her arm around my shoulders. "Yeah, we did. Thanks to you," I admitted, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer heat. For the next few days, I did nothing but sleep. My body and mind took the time to heal, to recover from the brink I'd been teetering on. Jamie let me be, quietly handling the fort while I regained my strength. When I finally felt like myself again, I sat down with Jamie, my heart full. "I don't know how to thank you," I started, but she waved me off. The train rattled along tracks lined with blooming fields, carrying me home for the holidays. I hadn't been back since I left for college. I stepped off the train with a backpack slung over one shoulder, the warm air biting at my cheeks as I made my way through the familiar streets of my hometown. I entered our house quietly, not wanting to spoil the surprise. The familiar smells of home cooking hit me as I slipped through the door. Peeking into the dining room, I saw my family gathered around the table, Mom, Dad, and Lily, deep in conversation. The moment felt surreal, like stepping into a photograph I wasn't part of anymore. "Dad?" My voice echoed slightly in the hallway. He looked up, startled, then his face broke into a wide grin. "Emma," he exclaimed, getting up so quickly his chair screeched against the floor. He wrapped me in a hug that felt like it could squeeze the stress of the past months right out of me. "What a surprise. When did you get here?" he asked, holding me at arm's length, his eyes scanning my face. "Just now," I said, managing a smile. Mom's voice cut through the warmth of our reunion. "You should have called first, Emma." I turned to her, her expression unreadable. I wanted it to be a surprise. Dad led me to the table, pulling out a chair beside him. "Well, it's a wonderful surprise. Sit down, let's get you some lunch." As I sat, Lily watched me with an odd look, a mix of curiosity and something else I couldn't quite place. Dad loaded my plate, and the conversation resumed around me. I picked at the food, my stomach tight with more than hunger. "You look thin, Emma. Have you been eating properly?" Dad's tone was laced with concern. I hesitated, then decided it was now or never. "Actually, I've been having a bit of a tough time financially." The table went quiet. Dad looked confused. "But I've been sending you $2,500 every month. And your tuition." "That's just it, Dad. I haven't received any money for a year and a half now." My voice was steady, despite the shaking I felt inside. Silence fell over the table like a heavy blanket. Mom's fork clattered onto her plate, her face draining of color. "I've had to take on 2 jobs just to make ends meet. I've been paying my tuition out of my savings and earnings," I said, the weight of the past months pouring out of me in a rush. Dad's face hardened, his eyes flicking to Mom. "Laura?" Mom shifted in her seat, her voice a whisper. "I thought it best to allocate the funds to Lily's tuition. Her school is very expensive, Anne." I looked between them, the tension palpable. Lily sat silent, her eyes wide. Dad's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Lily, why do you need so much money when your tuition and accommodation are fully paid for? What's going on?" Lily's face went from pale to a deep shade of red. I could see her hands trembling as she clasped them tightly in her lap. It took her a moment, but she finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I have debts, Dad. Gambling debts." The room seemed to spin as her words sunk in. "Gambling debts? How did it get to this point? How much do you owe?" Dad's voice was steady, but the quiet fury behind it was palpable. $70,000, Lily murmured, not meeting anyone's eyes. Dad's reaction was immediate. His face hardened, and he let out a long, tired sigh. "I will pay off these debts," he declared in a tone that brokered no argument. But as he said it, both Lily and Mom seemed to relax, almost as if they had been granted a reprieve. Lily even had the gall to look at me and smirk. "See, Emma, Dad loves me more than you." That's when Dad dropped the bombshell. "But I am cutting off any further financial support for your education and living expenses, Lily. You are on your own now." The change in Lily's expression was instant, from smug satisfaction to shocked disbelief. Mom's reaction was even more dramatic. She started to scream, "No, you can't do that. How will she live? How will she finish her education?" Dad turned to her, his voice cold and resolute. "I'm doing what I must. You've deceived me, endangered Emma's health, and misused my trust. I won't stand for it." The argument escalated quickly from there, with Mom pleading and crying, begging Dad for forgiveness, but he was unmoved. "I want you and Lily to pack your bags and leave my house. I can't trust you under this roof." Mom was sobbing now, her cries loud and pitiful, but Dad's decision was final. Lily sat frozen, her earlier bravado evaporated as the reality of the situation hit her. As I watched the scene unfold, a part of me felt vindicated that the truth was finally out, but another part felt hollow. The family I had known was shattered. Mom and Lily's departure was quiet, filled with the sound of stifled sobs and hurried packing. The morning after the upheaval, Dad and I sat at the kitchen table with our coffee, the air between us filled with a tentative peace. He cleared his throat, breaking the silence that had settled comfortably around us. "Emma, I'll handle your tuition and expenses from now on. No more intermediaries," he said, his voice firm, determined to set things right. I smiled, a weight lifting off my shoulders, though there was news he wasn't expecting. "Actually, Dad, I've got a scholarship now. Tuition's covered." His eyes widened, surprise etching his features, before a proud grin took over. "That's my girl. Always full of surprises," he chuckled, then grew more serious. "But you've been through a lot, haven't you? How about a vacation? You deserve some time to relax, maybe by the sea?" The offer was tempting, almost too good to resist. "That sounds amazing, Dad. I'd love that." True to his word, Dad arranged a vacation for me. The seaside was beautiful, therapeutic. The sound of the waves, the serene sunsets, and the gentle rhythm of the water were a stark contrast to the chaos that had become my life back home. It was a time for healing, for strengthening my resolve to move forward not just with my studies, but in rebuilding the strained relationship with my father. When I returned from the vacation, refreshed and with a renewed sense of purpose, I dove back into my studies with vigor. College life resumed its pace, but this time I was more involved, occasionally attending parties with friends, allowing myself to enjoy the full spectrum of the university experience. During this time, the finalization of my parents' divorce came through. Dad retained the family property, and Mom was left with a modest monthly income, barely enough to get by. It was a stark downfall from the lavish lifestyle she was accustomed to, but the consequences of her actions had been inevitable. One evening, as I was preparing for a midterm, my phone rang. It was Mom. I hadn't heard from her since she and Lily left the house that fateful day. "Emma, please, you have to talk to your father for us." Her voice was shaky, desperate. "It's Lily. She hasn't stopped gambling. She's in debt again. We need help." The cycle hadn't broken, it had just restarted. I felt a pang of sympathy for Lily, but the years of being overlooked hardened my heart. "Mom, I can't. It's not my place to fix this." "But we're family," she tried to insist. "I was family too, when you chose Lily over me repeatedly," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I hope Lily gets the help she needs, but it won't be through me." There was a pause, heavy and laden with unspoken words, before Mom finally whispered a goodbye. I hung up, a mixture of relief and sadness washing over me. The decision to step back wasn't easy, but necessary. I needed to protect the peace I'd fought so hard to find and maintain the boundaries that kept me sane. Life moved on. Dad and I rebuilt our relationship, stronger and more honest than before. He supported my academic endeavors, and I kept him updated about my life, ensuring he never felt out of the loop again. As I progressed through college, the lessons I learned weren't just academic. They were about resilience, about the importance of standing up for oneself, and about the complexities of family. I graduated with honors, a testament to my determination and my father's unwavering support.